everybody, this is Brian Hogue. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Chiller Chat. Tonight's guest is Jim KRUT. Jim is was the helicopter zombie from Dawn of the Dead, one of George Romero's classic movies in in the zombie trilogy. I'm going to give Jim a call right now, but I want everybody to know that while I'm talking to the guest on the show, this is interactive. Feel free to throw a question up there or to make a comment or question. I'll be talking with Jim, but if you have a question for him, just slap it up there on the screen, and we'll make sure he gets the question. All right, let me give Jim a call here. All right.
Hello.
Jim, this is Brian. You're on Chiller Chat.
Oh, I'm happy to be there. It's like being in two different places at once.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining me tonight for this episode. I've been really wanting to have you back on the show. You were kind enough to be on the show back in, oh, wow, it's been so long, 2009. Can you believe that?
2009, yeah. You came down to Gettysburg, a little town that makes its living off the dead.
Yeah.
And we had a great time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, lots happened since then, and I've been following you on Facebook. And then when I started being able to get the show live here, and I really wanted to get you back on as soon as I could. So thank you once again. And
oh, my pleasure. It's always great to talk with you, Brian.
Well, thank you. And this is kind of neat because I can, I've invited the guests and the viewers here, or the viewers to, throw out any questions or comments along the way as we're chatting. So we will we'll start off by mentioning the helicopter zombie. We did quite a bit of a segment there last time you were on the show about the helicopter zombie. One of the viewers on YouTube asked, why did they call him the helicopter zombie? I explained to them before we started here, but wow, what a I don't know. It's so amazing that you are going to all these conventions now in 2018 as the helicopter zombie.
Well, the remarkable thing about this year, I've probably done more conventions this year than I have in the past 18 years since I've been doing conventions.
Wow.
Including one coming in the UK in November. And part of that is due to the fact that this is the 40th anniversary of Dawn of the Dead. And back in June at the Monroeville Mall, where most of Dawn of the Dead was filmed, there was the Living Dead Weekend, Dawn of the Dead reunion, with 40 guests. Those were folks who were involved with the original Dawn of the Dead 40 years ago. So it was quite a convention, quite an opportunity for fans both to see the mall, which was literally the movie set. Now things have changed considerably there, of course, in Monroeville near Pittsburgh. But they came from all over the world, and because this really has been a film with an international following, it's been translated into so many different languages, and of course there's the European cut, out of which I am cut. Partially. So, but all the folks that I've talked to have seen it. So, I mean, like in Germany where it was removed, and they all got the American version, the director's cut, and they know I would say they know every stitch and word in the thing. So, I'm just so happy to be part of and associated with Dawn of the Dead. It's of course, there's the new Eli Roth program, which is History of Horror, and the first episode aired Sunday at midnight, and the feature segment was on zombies, and it's kind of fun to see some of the people I've worked with, and to see myself, I guess, thrown in a couple of times there. So yeah, it's been an exciting time.
It's funny. I saw somebody posted that on your Facebook page about you. You know, your scene, the helicopter zombie scene, being on the Eli Roth's History of Horror, and I actually taped that the other night, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. So I was going to ask you about that, but you brought it up, so that's pretty cool. That's so neat though. But I was saying to one of the viewers is the Bravo Network calling this scene one of the most 100 most memorable scenes in horror movie history. I mean, it was just, I guess it was just different enough. It was just unique enough to make the cut.
Yeah, it made the cut. And it's still considered, from what I understand, one of the top 5 zombie deaths.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
hey, I'm good with that, too. Now, of course, more zombie films are being made. Not all of them actually feature zombies. Some of them, like 28 days later, that's the rage virus, but, you know, they could potentially be characterized as zombies. And there are a lot of, you know, varieties of death scenes in a lot of those. So the fact that it's managed to hold its own over 40 years, and still people are interested in meeting with me to talk about how it was done. It fascinates me, and by golly, I'm happy to be a part of that.
That's amazing, though. I mean, horror fans and science fiction fans, to me, I think are some of the most loyal and fanatical, in a good way, fans in the world. And I think you know, these conventions prove that over and over again. You know, just to talk to somebody who was there, you know, who was on scene on one of these most beloved films of their childhood, or, you know, they just want to see and meet you and hear what it was like. And I don't know, it's just a great thing. It's neat that you're going, and you're going to the UK of all places too. I mean, that is really outstanding.
Well, this is going to be my third time going to the show there, which is called Weekend of the Dead. Mm-hmm. It's the 4th year that they've had it. I went to the first year just because the fans were so passionate. They're all volunteers. This is a show put on by fans because they figure it was cheaper for them to try to bring us over, several of us at a time, rather than for them to try to make a trip to the United States, go to try to track down everybody. And, this way, you know, they can take a train, go to Manchester, go to the Pendulum Hotel, and my God, there are going to be about 12 or 14 of us from various Romero films. Wow. So that's pretty fantastic for them. And it's just that passion. Without the fans, none of us would, you know, be, I was going to say be worth spit, but I don't think we'd be remembered in the same way and with the same amount of fervor.
Right.
The passion of the fans is remarkable. And there is something about the films, Brian, that just sticks with people. There's something they identify with. It becomes part of them. You talked about, you know, bringing back memories of childhood. And one of my favorite films was always Creature from the Black Lagoon. Mm. So when I had a chance to meet Raku Browning, who was the creature, and Julie Adams, who was in Creature from the Black Lagoon, talk about my boyhood ideals, you know, coming true. Geez, that was fantastic. So I understand that complete enthusiasm for the opportunity to meet somebody from one of your favorite films.
Yeah, no, it's quite a thrill, and in fact, and it's funny because I have this old Dracula book sitting on the desk here as the viewers are watching. And I've mentioned this on one of my Saturday shows, but this is just something from my childhood, from the 70s when I was growing up. This thing I used to check this out of a library, but just to have that, I got that for my birthday, you know, because I just wanted to bring a little slice of my childhood back, you know, and so I ordered this book. You know, it's just I don't know. There's something that, you know, to actually hold it and to see it, and it's tangible to me. It brings a little bit of my childhood back to me, and that thrill I had back then. So, and there's, I don't know, I think that's a very positive thing in life.
Oh, I totally agree with you. I really do. And I don't know whether it's just that we were at an impressionable age, or just it was so fantastic. There were fewer distractions at the time too. So when you saw Dracula, that's the only thing that was going on that week. There wasn't, oh, I've got to watch 5 other programs on TV. You were lucky if you had a TV.
You're right. That's true. Hey, I wanted to ask you, so I thought about this just when you were talking about the Monroeville Mall and that being the set, basically, of Dawn of the Dead. Now, the scene that you filmed, you were in, where was that filmed at with the helicopter and your part there?
Well, there's a small airport near Monroeville, which is, strangely enough, called the Monroeville Airport.
Weird.
It's very small, just a few buildings, a small administrative building, and I believe it's more or less owned by a private flying club. It has a bit of a long grassy strip. It's not paved. And the latest I heard is the property may be sold, possibly for development, but during the 40th anniversary, that's one of the reasons why there were no tours at the airport, although some of the fans said, they came from other countries, they came from other states. They were going to go see the airport regardless, whether there were tours there or not. They wanted to, see the actual site. And that's true for a lot of scenes where Dawn of the Dead was filmed, where Night of the Living Dead was filmed, and really other movie locations. People literally like to return to the scene of the crime and see just what it was like for themselves. Oh, I didn't know the building was that small, or gee, this airport field is, it's kind of tiny and grassy. How is this an airport? But so it just brings a whole other dimension of the appreciation of the films.
Oh wow, that's neat. I didn't know that. You were that close to actually the mall. When you filmed it.
I was at the airport when my ship came in. That's my little joke. Okay.
You ever wonder? I just now thought of this. Do you ever think of anybody ever ask you about a backstory for that guy, for that zombie? I mean, wonder what he did. Wonder what his name was. I mean, who was the helicopter zombie before he was the helicopter zombie?
People have proposed a couple different backstories for me. And I have a fellow down in Virginia who says he has a script that, actually the helicopter blade didn't kill him entirely. So he's got a whole other story developed, and he was interested in possibly turning that into a film. So I'm still waiting to hear more about that. In the filmmaking business, sometimes when it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
When it's talked about, sometimes it's just talked about.
Right.
Or some projects get started and don't get finished. That's unfortunately the nature of things.
Yeah.
Sometimes people come and go, and situations change, financing might change. Yeah. So I've got a couple films on my Internet Movie Database site that aren't viewable yet because they're not out. They haven't made it to the screen yet.
Yeah. Yeah, good intentions, but it's hard to follow through with things sometimes, and I would like to see the helicopter zombie origin story. The prequel. maybe he was a ceiling fan installer or something. I mean.
Had no fear of overhead blades.
No, and then he became a zombie and just lost his focus, I guess.
He went to that big ceiling fan in the sky and it bit him.
Right. Yep.
That's a great theory, Brian.
Yeah, he was always able to dodge that bullet until that one day. That one fateful day he stumbled into the airport. But I want to talk about some of your films, but before I do that, I wanted, because of the time of the year, of course, approaching Halloween, you directed the play Dracula, and that was with and correct me if I'm wrong, the Gettysburg Stage Ensemble Theater. Is that?
Yes.
Okay. Now this was back in 2006, so several years ago. But what was that like? I mean, how did you get involved in directing Dracula?
Well, interesting. interestingly, it was part of the theater company that I helped form in Gettysburg. I was one of the people in the first production, and it was going to be kind of a one-off production, but everybody really liked the idea of working on an alternative theater, so we developed a theater company, worked out a location to perform, rehearse, and then a list of plays that we thought would be not just of interest, but things that we wanted to do, things that were more of a challenge to. There are a lot of actors in this area, and we've done a lot of regular sorts of stuff, but we wanted some challenging pieces. So for one of the productions, it was Dracula, and I portrayed Dracula in the first production of it.
Oh.
And it turned out to be one of our most popular plays. The attendance was great, and I guess it's something maybe that people were familiar with the story, but it was in such an intimate space, and people were up close and literally trembling. So it was fantastic. We decided, I think about 2 years later, to do it again, and I was asked to direct it, and I had a little different concept of how it could be done, and we'd moved to a different location, a different space. And I really enjoyed that production because I was part of the ensemble. I'd worked with the people for a couple of years. I knew their capabilities and their ranges. And being able to work in an ensemble, and that basically means people that you're working with in different situations, but it's the same group of people, different plays. So you see various sides of them and how far they can stretch, and they tell you about the yearnings they have to do particular characters. So you really get a lot of passion going into the acting, and as a result, it was one of the most fun things I'd ever done.
Now, was that more like the Bela Lugosi version of?
I'd say pretty close, but of course you can't do on stage all of the things you do in film.
Yeah.
And so you have to make some choices. One of the choices we had was to bring it again as close to the audience as we could, and literally interact and run through the audience and around the audience. And in the space we had, we were able to do that. So sometimes the space itself determines the staging you can do, how the blocking can go, what people can see. Oh, is it behind a curtain? Well, there weren't really any curtains anymore. We just kind of kept it open as a castle. But anyway, I'm sorry, I get swept up in it.
Oh no, I find that play. I love that play. In fact, whenever I asked you that question, because whenever I watch the Bela Lugosi Dracula movie, I always picture what that would look like as a play, as a stage play, because that movie there was based off of the play version, I guess. So that kind of makes sense. But whenever I see that in the original Frankenstein, I always imagine, those being converted over to a play, because I love theater. I just love theater, and I would love to see that.
Oh, me too. And that's a lot of my background. And in terms of Dracula, I was talking with Tom Savini, who did all the makeup and special effects for Dawn of the Dead. And we were talking about it because with the Pittsburgh Public Theater, I believe he did a production of Dracula.
He did, and I actually went and saw that when I lived in Pittsburgh.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. The way you talked about it made me sad that I missed it. But
it was in 90.
Described it as a magic show.
98, I believe, was when I saw that. Now, Tom, one of our YouTube viewers, says the Lugosi Dracula was based on the London stage play. So that's interesting to know. Thank you, Tom. But yes, when he did that, it was incredible. They had, when he describes it as a magic show, that's pretty much what it was. There was so much. You're just sitting there, just mesmerized, with all that they're doing, the practical effects that they're doing right in front of you.
Yes. The disappearing tablecloth, the person in the hallway who just vanishes before your eyes.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Well,
I could just picture it the way he described it. But, knowing how the effects were done, too, is still pretty cool, because when you're watching it, you tend to forget how it's done. You just see the magic of it, and really that's part of the beauty of live theater. You just get absorbed and pulled into it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's nothing quite like it. Nothing quite like it. Well, I'm showing one of the DVD to the viewers right now of Deadlands 2. This was released in 2008, and you played a not so nice character in this movie, Dr. Robert Mitchell, I believe.
Yes, evil government official.
Mm-hmm.
What a character. I loved it. I mean, he was just such a. Well, let's say that the director said, in terms of direction, I said, "How do you see this character?" He said, "You get to play him as God." Cool. So that's a lot of latitude when you give that to an actor who's a bit of a ham anyway.
Yeah.
And, it was a neat story, and we actually, after one or two film festivals and showings, there were some questions that came up about how did this happen, or what happened that caused this to happen. So he realized there were a couple gaps in it. So he actually went back and shot a couple additional scenes to fill in, and I got to be part of that as well. So I really enjoyed that role because it was an opportunity as a lead in a film. And well, I'll tell you a very quick story. The way I got that role is that I was performing Dracula with Gettysburg Stage, and afterward I was signing autographs as the helicopter zombie to raise money for Gettysburg Stage. One of the fans who came to see it happened to run the Leitersburg Theater. He was a projectionist, and he said, "Hey, how about if you come to the theater near Hagerstown, and we'll run the original Dawn of the Dead. You can do autographs in the lobby, and then we'll run the remake, the 2005 version." I said, "Hey, that would be cool." And he said, "There's somebody I want you to meet." Well, I was doing the autographs in the lobby, and up comes Gary U. Garrick, who was the person he wanted me to meet. Mm-hmm. And Gary was the director of Deadlands 2.
Right.
And that's when I met Gary, and he cast me in the role right then and there. So,
wow, that's neat.
So the role Dracula has had a wide-ranging implication for me. Yeah, because now those were true villains. I mean, the helicopter zombie, that was just an innocent guy, as far as we know. Sure.
You know.
Sure.
So I do get a kick out of seeing you, because I've seen you in other things play some pretty evil people, and it's always a pleasure watching you do that, because I from what I know of you personally, obviously you're like the nicest guy in the world. So.
I don't know. People tell me that, and then they see a movie that I'm in, and they say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't realize you were that nasty and bad and evil." Oh, well, thank you.
Well, you're now, speaking of another part, and okay, A Host of Sparrows. That was a movie from this year, 2018.
Yes, we just premiered that in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, a few weeks back. We worked on that last year, so it took a while to get through all the editing process. And it's kind of a murder drama, and in which I am cast in the role of a hitman who's sort of getting ready to go on vacation, and it's he's just kind of keeping an eye on things until everything falls apart and goes awry, and then he's kind of called back into action again. But I really liked that role too. That was fun. I loved working with the director, Kevin Boone, who I also worked with in the film called Ghosting 2 years earlier, in which I got to play a priest or a minister. And it was one of the funniest things I had to do, because when I went to the audition for it, he said, "Well, which role do you want to read for?" And I said, I'll read this one for the role. And after I did the reading, he said, "I have a question for you. Are you a minister?" No, I said, "I played a nun once."
You played a nun, right?
So he cast me as the minister, and we've had fun with that ever since.
Oh, well.
He's been a real good friend and a good guy, and I really like the way he directs. As he says, respect the craft.
Yeah. So you got a good guy role. So you get those two every once in a while, huh?
Every once in a while, yes.
Well, wow, the time is just we've got like 5 minutes left, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Kecksburg. You went to Kecksburg this summer, correct?
Oh yes, this summer and last summer. Last summer, my wife was able to go, and this year I went with a friend, and we got to see the UFO mock-up and to hear the presentations, and got to talk with Stan Gordon again. Stan, of course, is Pennsylvania's UFO coordinator and Bigfoot coordinator of information. A real good guy to talk with and listen to. He's been doing this for 40, 50 years, and just the nicest guy you'd want to know, but he's just got so many fantastic stories. And Kecksburg, if you haven't been there, is a very small town, but with a very enthusiastic following.
Yeah. Yeah, I was down there talking to Stan one time, and we were talking. We were doing our interview in front of the mock-up UFO, the Acorn as they call it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a small town, but wow, was that packed? It was really packed. Do you have an interest in that type of thing, or did you have a table set up, or do you just wanted to go?
No, I just went as a fan.
Oh, okay.
I've always been interested in UFOs, Bigfoot, all sorts of phenomena, everything from movie monsters on. My feeling is that those ideas from the movies must be based on something real.
Yeah. There's far more out there than what we know of. That's certain. But you have some. What are you working on now, Jim? Or what's coming up for you? And I'll put your website back up here.
I'm going to be in Hagerstown, Maryland. We have the 4-state Comic Con.
Oh, okay.
And that's going to be at Hager Hall. That's going to be a good time. The following weekend, I'm going to be in New Jersey at in Smithville at MonsterCon. That's a one-day show on Saturday, October 27th. Then literally the following weekend is the Weekend of the Dead in Manchester, the UK. And after that, I'm going to take a few days and be in Denmark visiting a friend and hoping to find some Viking ruins.
Well, while you're up there, didn't you? Did you say you got a chance to visit Stonehenge?
Yes, I did. First time I went to the UK for the convention 3.5 years ago, I guess it was. I said I don't know where to go once I land in Heathrow. They said, don't you worry, we'll pick you up at the airport. We'll take care of you. We'll get you to Manchester. I said, well, how far are you from Stonehenge? He said, 40 miles. We'll go there. I said, perfect. I'm coming.
Oh, that's neat.
So David Crawford was the only other person attending at that convention who was from Dawn of the Dead. He happened to be doing a show in Germany. So David and I got to go through Stonehenge together with our host, and we just had a wonderful time.
Wow, that's one of those once-in-a-lifetime opportunities for some, I was over there, but of all places, I did not go visit that, and I kind of kicked myself for that because I lived over there for a couple of years. So.
Yes, you were quite a traveling man, Brian.
I was back in the day. Back in the day, but Jim, I'm noticing we're already at the bottom of the hour, so
Okay.
That went so fast. But. Thank you.
Well, it's been a delight and a pleasure, Brian, and I really thank you for thinking of me. And I hope your fans and viewers will have an opportunity to stay tuned for more of the programs you're bringing out. And I really appreciate all the work you've done over the years.
Well, thank you very much, and I very much appreciate you taking your time out tonight. And if any of our viewers want to look and see what Jim's doing, go to hellazombie.com, and I have your website up on the screen right now.
Oh, okay.
Jim. But
and I'm on Facebook too if anybody wants to stop in and say hello.
Okay, great. Well, thank you once again, Jim. It's been a pleasure talking to you again.
A pleasure, Brian, and happy Halloween, my friend.
You too. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good night now.
Good night. And folks, thank you. Thank you once again for joining us here on Chiller Chat. Have a good night. Have a good chiller night. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
How many times do I have to tell you, just because something isn't good doesn't mean it's bad?
Oh, jeez.